When it gets down around 20, then you want to,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
20, 30, you want to call it.
So does one go empty and then it does?
You have two?
Yes,
I don't know.
They should parallel down.
because they both said 60.
Well, that's what you want.
Oh, okay, so
Then they
you-
both should read 50, then they both should
Oh,
read.
so you got plenty of propane then.
Okay,
Oh my God, 60% on 2 tanks. You could go for 2 weeks at least.
really?
Alrighty. Okay. Thank you for everybody for coming. It's a little after 6. Call the meeting to order. There's really no change in the agenda, just as a typo on October 21st minutes instead of the 7th. And personnel matter and receiving the advice from attorney, there will be no receiving advice from attorney this evening, just a personnel matter that was scheduled originally. So I need a motion to adopt the agenda as, I guess if you want to call amended or changed. How do you want to say it?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 We have the minutes of the 21st of October to approve. Are there any additions or corrections? And we need a motion to do so.
So moved. Second.
All right, Chris, second. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes of the 21st of October, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay, and who made the motion?
Al motion, Chris
Chris,
second.
Okay, thank you.
That's right, Stan, you were not here, so. We have 4-1, 1 abstention, 4 yeses. The warrants were presented and signed, so that's done. And just as a reminder, the warrants, I don't know if anybody saw the message today, but they are ready for signing. Sergeant Lincoln, you are on the table to speak.
Well, as I look around the room, I recognize a lot of faces, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Robert Lincoln. I'm the first sergeant of Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. Been with the agency for 19 years now. Whether you're aware or not, Sheriff Clark retired in July. Sheriff Mark Anderson took over. And we're gonna keep some of our old ideas, but also move towards some other new ideas in the future. One of the ideas that we used to do was coming to our select board meetings in our towns at least once a month to have that communication. Not to drag out your meetings any longer than they need to be. We don't need to be put on the agenda, but we will be stopping in at least once a month. As the board, if you have residents, for example, that can't make the meetings, but there's an issue that you want to present to us that can be passed on to the sheriff, that's pretty much what we're here for the communication of it. I will tell you, one of the changes that the sheriff is proposing, whether it affects Grafton directly or not, is the animal control. Sheriff Clark was pretty much opposed to that. He tried to develop a program years ago involving all the towns, and it didn't get met with too much success, but Sheriff Anderson is actually exploring that, so that is something for all our towns that they're considering, because animal control is starting to become a problem for many towns. So that is one issue that he is open to now, and he wanted to have relayed to the board. And the only other thing I can say is our agency, like a lot of law enforcement agencies, is very short-handed right now. There's to put in perspective, about 2 years ago, we had 27 members of our agency. We are down to 13 now, and that's not because of us. That's kind of standard with state police and a lot of our municipalities. Back in, well, we finally had somebody, an applicant, that we could get the background check done, pass the entrance exam, send them off to the part-time academy, which is held 4 times a week. The full-time is only 4 times a year. The full-time is twice a year. We usually, in the sheriff's office, would start people part-time and see how they do before they actually go to the full-time academy. But to give you an idea where we're at in Vermont right now with law enforcement, we finally had an applicant, and we sent them up, and the academy notified us that they could not hold the part-time academy. They didn't have enough applicants. The response is, how many applicants do you need? 10. How many did you get? 6. This is for the whole state of Vermont. And to give you an idea, back when I started in 2000, part-time with the sheriff's office, there were 7 applicants from Windham County alone. So that's kind of where we're at. We're hoping that that transition changes. But as a result of that, we've been, having to cover our details as well as our patrol contracts. We have a new person who's in charge of both detail scheduling and patrol scheduling. And last month in Grafton, I've heard, there was some notice of our hours being declining from the average of what we try to provide. That said, our goal is to always meet the hours that the town has paid for, then be above it usually by 25%, if not more. And we've always been very successful at that. A lot of our towns or villages vary by the coverage that they want. For example, Saxon's River, they're like, hey, is there any chance you can just really saturate the summer due to a lot of recent burglaries and such and back off in the winter? And we've done that. Jamaica, they want more coverage in the winter and back off in the summer. So as a result, our person that's now covering transitions, she was kind of pulling from here and there, which ultimately took away from Grafton as far as the hours for that 2-month span. But I guess my question to the board is, as we go to each town, would you want to maintain the direct target average per year? Or is there certain times a year you would prefer more coverage? Approximately right now, you're roughly 2 hours a week on average for the year. And like I said, we strive to be above that, but that would be one question I would pose to the town. Now, I don't need an answer today. It can come out in the next meeting after you discuss it amongst yourselves. The goal is always to try to at least make the minimum target per month. And that would be roughly, 8 hours a month, depending on what month it is, whether you have a 4 or 5 week month. But that's pretty much it. Going forward, is there anything I should pass on to the sheriff now that anybody has?
So the numbers are a result of lack of applicants, it's not budget cuts? You're just
No,
not
I wouldn't
getting-
say
just
there's
not
lack of
enough-
applicants. It's a combination of factors. We have a new person, as I said, doing the patrol schedule and the detail schedule. Our town contracts primarily are awash as far as financial benefit to the sheriff's office. We break even for the most part. Our real money making that we need for survival, for the new cars, the equipment, everything, the uniform, comes from the details. When you see us up on Read and Read on 91 or a lot of the escorts and such. So she was pulling patrol people, which normally wouldn't be out there. We'd have a part-time roster that would be out there doing the detail stuff, but with a shortage of part-timers, we've actually had to utilize a lot of our full-time patrol staff to cover these. And the monies that are made from them ultimately offset the cost for the town contracts to avoid them having to go up. So that was part of it.
I hear you, but my question was, as far as the students that you're trying to send to the academy and not having enough students, it's not because of budget cuts that there's not enough students.
Oh, yeah, there's not enough applicants.
You don't get enough candidates.
Yes.
Right.
And that's going on with everybody. And when this cycle develops, and I haven't seen it this extreme in years, if this extreme at all, you'll see people jumping, going to other agencies. It's, kind of what you'd say,
It's probably
seller's market right now.
probably like truck drivers.
Yeah.
Can't-
And it's
can't pass.
all professions, no matter what profession you talk to, but for us in law enforcement, this is what we're seeing. Vermont's always kind of been on the short end of the stick, so to speak, because we have to compete with Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York in terms of dollars. There's much more money to be made elsewhere. We're hoping that it just kind of blends out and comes back around, but yeah, all agencies are short right now. I know, for example, Wilmington PD are sending 2 full-time applicants to the academy now. And then, of course, the Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council just announced that the new full-time police academy, which used to be 16 weeks residential, is now going to go to 20 weeks with more classes. What's that translate to for a town like Wilmington? They're funding that whole training process. Then the applicant comes out and completes their FTO training, depending on how long that is, and then they're actually on the road by themselves for 2 or 3 months and wake up one day and say, this isn't for me, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and now we start this process all over again, and it's kind of scary.
seems like it's counterproductive with crime and things that are happening, that they're cutting back on budgets. The state is anyway, I'm assuming it's the state that cuts back. It seems to be,
It's not budgets. It's
No,
people
no,
are
it is
online.
budget also. Isn't it correct?
Well, to a point, you have to take from other I mean, I can't speak for state police, for example, but I know last numbers I had, they have roughly 370 members when they're supposed to be up over closer to 500. So they're short as well. The general rule that you see with state police usually is they will be here about 5 years and they usually go back to some other state or go where the money is, so to speak. So budget is a factor in that as far as, pay and such. But
So they use Vermont as a training program to get certified and then go to a state.
that's, I can't
Well, I mean, that's.
say that. I mean, they have a better hiring pool than us.
Right.
Mm.
So you come up here, you can get full-time certified,
Correct.
get 5 years experience under your belt.
Right.
Now you have your 2 degrees and 5 years experience, you're definitely more appealing when you go back and reapply.
And of course, the same thing happens with the sheriffs. They use the sheriffs
Oh,
for training
exactly.
to get their foot in the door to become a state.
Well, that whole thing, it's just not, in law enforcement, been in the fire service for a long time. And to find new people now to step up and go through the training, firefighter 1 level or EMT level, and first responders is getting very, very difficult. We are very, very shorthanded right now here in town.
The days of, for example, volunteer fire service, sooner or later, in my opinion, it will come to an end for the very reasons you're saying. They're gonna start a regional, fire service. That's gonna be the only way that you're gonna be able to keep up with the money and the time.
And we do the same thing, that you go to firefighter 1, that's a 120-hour class or whatever now, and then they'll get to the end of it, and it's been funded for $2,000, whatever the cost of the program is, and they get to the end of it and say, well, it's too much time, and you've already invested the dollars. So, it's just not just law enforcement, it's any of these first responder trades that require a lot of training. It's getting very, very difficult.
And
for
I'm
people
not
to
saying
do.
it to the town as an excuse, I just want everybody to kind of have an understanding of what's going on.
No,
And
it is.
our goal as far as where we're going from here, but it'll definitely come, like I said, stopping at these meetings and any issues or concerns that need to go
That's a
back to the
great idea.
sheriff, I'll be the conduit for that, or somebody will. And the sheriff does want to actually come out and start hitting the towns himself. That's one thing he is learning, is the amount of meetings tied up with being a politician now.
Anybody have any questions? I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see you
Thank you.
soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Okay.
service.
Thank you.
Okay.
Danny, I guess you're on with the highway report.
So, yeah, the fire alert on the one telephone line, that came up, we had problems again with the fire system here, not doing its test calls proper. It's due because we only have one phone line that it's hooked to right now, and there's supposed to be 2, so it alternates. So if there's an interrupting in one line, it kicks to the other. So they put a jumper wire across to make it work, because you only have one line. We used to have 2. So that's something you guys gotta decide on, if you're gonna have the second line put back in, or just let it go on the one phone line.
I
Let
thought
me,
it was the internet.
What is
They could
it?
use the internet. Maybe
let me give a little bit of history to this thing, because this sort of goes back to everybody signing the warrants and sort of the rationale for each individual select board member signing warrants and payrolls and stuff and looking at the bills. So in the process, I was signing the warrants, I'm going through the telephone bills, I'm looking at the numbers. And there was a number that was assigned to the town hall that was totally foreign. I went in and asked Kim, I said, what is this number? I have no idea. So we Kim called the phone company to verify what it was, because I was thinking maybe it was a holdover from the construction, that maybe when the construction trailer was there, and we're paying on this phone number that nobody had any idea what it was.
You said town hall, but you mean town garage?
No, town hall.
Okay, all right.
And so anyway, so we called the phone company to find out what it was, and they said, oh, that's a town highway number, but they didn't know for what. So we got a hold of Danny or whatever and said, is that a fax number? Because they didn't know what it was. He said, I don't have a fax. We called the alarm company thinking it was an alarm number. Nope, it was 2456 is their alarm number. So this thing went in and nobody could figure out, went back to the phone company, it was this thing about this number. Nobody could figure out what it was. And it was, I don't know, $300 a year, do you remember?
It was $37 a month.
Yeah, so 350 or whatever the number is a year, and nobody quite knows what this phone was for. And so anyway, come to find out, then I think you started to have some, so Kim called the phone company and said, well, if nobody knows what this number is for, we're paying $350 a year for a phone number, nobody knows what it is, we're gonna cancel it. So that's what happened, it got canceled. And then you started to have alarm problems. So we called in.
They came out and worked on it the first time, and that's never said nothing.
And that was before this happened,
Right.
I believe.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was before. But anyway, so to make sort of a long story short, the alarm company showed up. And come to find out this number 2774, I don't even remember what the number.
7214.
7214 is some odd number. And they said, oh yeah, well that's the second number for the fire alarm. But nobody knew it.
Boy, the text.
Yeah, you know, so anyway, so the decision was made, at least right then, was just to, rather than create confusion cutting in on the phone line, they jumpered it over to one line. And what we have to do is make a decision now, if we want to go back to the two phone lines, it's $350 a year, and all it's for, it's the second line for the fire alarm system up there.
But it is for code too. Code is you're supposed to have two numbers.
Yeah.
And the other thing is when you have, and I don't care which way you go, as long as it's your guys' decision, that when you have the one number, which I was on the phone with Bill, when the guy went to reset the alarm system takes priority.
Right.
So it basically just shut us off.
Right, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, so
Right.
anytime something's going on here, if you have a fire or a smoke detector, we have, I think there's 4 or 5 different heads. You have heat, smoke, carbon, and I think our sewer system's on it now for the pump system. So anytime, if you're on the phone or you're trying to call and any one of them alarms is going off, you can't use the phone because that takes the priority. And they can't answer you how long that will take. It can take anywhere from a few seconds to who knows, depending what part of the system's going on.
Right.
So do you have any alarms that could go on for a long time?
But
And
it's
tie-
supposed to
And tie up your phone for a long
the-
time?
It's supposed to send a signal and that be it, but he says he doesn't know how long because you're gonna have, depending what's going on, you're gonna have multiple sensors going
Triggers,
on.
right.
So, but he says he don't know. That was that.
I thought I heard somewhere that you can connect it to the internet.
Well,
You
that's-
can, and
That is the way they're
and
going
that's my next thing. And I did ask him, and he did this at Countryside Alarm. They said that they're getting away from the phone lines, the fiber optics, and going into the internet. I still think it has to use phone lines somewhere along
But
the
the
way.
problem is with the internet, our internet is going through the phone system.
Right, well, they all are.
So,
Right.
I don't see how it's any different.
I don't either, but that's what he said. He said the next thing that's gonna come along is the internet. So I asked him to send proposal from Countryside to the town to see what's involved with doing the
Yeah, the one
internet
that
alarm.
they're starting to
Yeah.
use is, like cell phone signal, which you don't have here, so up here.
He mentioned that was the way that everybody's gonna start going is
Right.
internet and then your 2456. So it'll ping from the landline to the internet and they're gonna phase out using telephone
Right.
lines. And he said that there's an initial cost in the
Equipment.
equipment to set it up, but then after that, there's no cost, so you won't be paying a monthly bill. You'll have the first cost setting it up and then that's it, you're done. And he said that's the way the
Yes, sir.
alarm systems are starting to go at internet, and so that's why we said, well, why bother now putting the line back on if we don't know which way we're gonna go yet?
Because he said it would be the cost of a year's worth of phone line or something like that would cover the cost of the equipment, so.
Right.
And then that equipment cost stops as opposed to ongoing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, that's the way it was left. They were supposed to send a proposal to the town for the internet connection.
So is the internet currently, that system currently available to us?
Yeah.
Or is it still developing?
Oh, no, it's still currently, they've been doing it for 2 to 3 years using the internet
So it's
Countryside.
perfected?
It's perfected, and that's, I deal with Countryside and other locations, and that is the way they're going, is through the internet. The office, we asked for an estimate, but, we have 3 lines as it is that have to be utilized anyways and we pay for. So it pings between Bill and the fax, and I can't see really changing that until it's mandatory. What's the sense in going through having the interface charge of having it hooked up?
Yeah, because the main line at the office down there is the fax,
Yeah.
is the fax line, so.
Bill?
Danny, talk about what happens if it starts interfering with you, and let's say you have a completely different incident, a truck rolls over at the same time, this thing's trying to tell somebody there's smoke in the building.
Well, that's the thing, you can't.
Then you can't, and that's the problem. Are you guys,
We have-
good for $300 a year, is it worth it for him not to be able to call in an emergency if that line keeps interfering with his telephone call? Is it the likelihood? I don't know. But
I would like to
that is the decision you're making if you're gonna leave him with one
Well,
line.
but it won't be for any period, length of time, it's just until we decide to put the line on or have them
Okay,
put the.
but like Danny says, there are 4 reasons that can come on.
Yeah, but it's not like you're gonna do it next year, you're gonna like do it.
No, there's 4 reasons, to go online?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
well, that's what my thought was,
Okay,
as soon
no,
as
well,
the
then
quote comes,
That's
yeah.
all gotta be part of the decision. How long are you gonna leave him in a precarious situation? How precarious, who knows, but a precarious situation before you go online. Okay, because before this, he had 2 lines. If he needed a line, it wouldn't interrupt him. That's all I'm saying. So, I mean, it's not a decision of one line's better and cheaper. That's not the decision.
We can call and put that other line back on until we get the quote and find out what the quote is too.
Well,
Well, can you
I think
find
the
out how
one,
soon you might get a quote?
Well, the way he talked, I thought that he was gonna go back, he made a note and
I
it
will
was
call
gonna come
him
out.
tomorrow.
Well, how long ago did you talk to him?
Thursday.
Oh, so it's all, this is all recent?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
this is
this
all
is all-
recent.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, this
It's
is
not, it's
just,
not like
Last couple
something you
days.
promised 3
no,
months ago?
no, this is just a couple of days ago.
So
I think
if
you
you-
can get that other quote, I just,
Yeah.
letting you know if you do decide to stay with the one line,
Yeah.
what happens at
Yeah.
certain, whether them ever conflict with each other or not, it's hard to say, but it is a possibility.
Yeah, I don't have Countryside, I have ADT, and at the time, I only had 1 line, and they use my internet. Now I have 2 lines, but they don't use the 2 lines. And I never have a problem with it. If when the alarm goes off, if the line is busy, it goes to the internet, and they call me back. So it works very well. I've had it for 5 years now, I think. So I think it's a very reliable system, but before you go ahead and put a phone line back, I think you should wait and see what the quote is. I mean, if the quote is $1,000, you might not want to do it. I have
Because I
no
don't
idea.
think, like I say, once you do the initial hardwire hookup to the internet, it's done, it goes to their server,
Right.
and it's
time.
done.
Right.
Right, you pay for the install,
Right.
but you're not paying for a monthly fee down the road. I was just saying that, you know, if the decision was to go to the one line and not do a second thing,
But I mean, they should be able to give you a quote in a couple of days. I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal.
Well, like I said, I mean, and then we went through the storm and, you
Of course,
know,
yeah.
power lines down, so,
right,
um,
no matter
Maybe,
how many phone
uh,
lines you've got. the
maybe
lines
Kim, you
stuff
could
is-
give,
I'll give Mike a call.
Yeah, give Mike a call.
Say that
See.
we talked to him.
So is it $37 a month for 1 line or 2?
one line.
That's $444.
Yeah,
Right.
it's up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and the internet, I mean, I can tell you, it works at my house. So,
I have the same deal with
Yeah.
ADT.
so you know, it's certainly not it's a tried and proven situation. It's not something experimental. So,
But anyway, that just happened.
yeah. What you do the favorite subject then, the trees?
I see the email Bill sent for how we scored, just about the trees in the right of way, the state law that we pretty much have the right other than, fruit bearing trees, I think is one, unless it is a danger, then it still is, so. If that's what you guys are gonna use for the policy, is just the state one.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Gives us authorization.
Yep.
And the limits of the highways under town care, just to be clear, is that 37
It's
feet,
the, 3 rod road, which is
17 feet either side of the center line?
24.9 each side.
24.9, okay.
I still think you're gonna wanna be talking to some landowners before you just walk up and cut their tree up.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, and I can't find it, I asked Bill to do the research. I remember, Stan, you were on the board, I don't know if it was when you were there or somebody else, but we adopted this policy, but we had a policy that if you were going to cut it, you would talk to the landowner first, before you went there and started chopping down, trees in the right of way. But let them know that they're a bother and whatever. Now, if the landowner didn't agree, then the board had to make a decision and decide how you wanted to handle it.
Right.
And maybe that's something we wanna think about, rather than just having to go out there one morning and just start cutting trees without the landowner. I mean, I'm just trying to say, maybe it just saves some headaches. But certainly, we have the right, I read that thing, and we have the right to do what we have to do.
Right. That, you done? So I happened to talk to a friend of mine, when my wife was in Rutland for follow-up surgery. And, so he's a tree warden in the town of, Shrewsbury. Pretty active, very active, retired Forest and Parks guy. And, he was supposed to send me the laws for tree wardens. And he says, one of the things that's interesting is, eventually these trees and the emerald ash borer thing gets to be a liability issues for the town. And he says, if you have a system in place in the town, you can demonstrate, if there was a problem, you can demonstrate you have a system. Whether you're cutting 1 or 2 trees a year or whatever the number, it's the fact that you have a system to take care of hazard trees in your right of way. My concern is, if we see the damage that they have in western New York, we're gonna have a lot of dead ash trees, we're gonna have a lot of liability, and it's just a matter of time, one of those falls on somebody's vehicle or somebody's truck or something. If you read the Chester Telegraph, when they did the survey, Kevin Beatty did the survey in Londonderry, they found 1,600 trees, 1,600 ash trees in the right of way in Londonderry. I don't know how many, do you know how many miles of road Londonderry has?
A lot.
I don't either, but if they got 1,600, I gotta guess we gotta probably have 1,000, so we're talking quite a few trees, and I think we should have some plan in place of, are we gonna do inventory, are we gonna set so much aside, or are we gonna cut trees only when they're dead, but we ought to have something that we've thought about before we have a whole bunch of dead trees and it's like, what do we do now?
I don't disagree at all.
But is there a true policy for the tree warden? We have a tree warden, but
Well,
is there an
somebody
actual
said-
policy for that position?
Right here.
The question is, like a lot of things, is there a job description?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Not a policy, but a job description. And my feeling has been, unless I'm wrong, that tree warden's been one of those, kind of like the weigher of coal. It's just on the books from historically.
Yeah.
I've never had to do anything.
Well, Bill, did you send this Vermont tree warden statute?
No, Al said that. You're not looking at the tree warden statute. You might be looking at that if you want to go into a program. What you're looking at is Title 19.
Yeah.
You're not looking at the
No,
other.
I didn't know you sent this.
No, that's Al's.
I got that from my tree warden friend.
Okay.
And he sent the.
Those laws don't let you go on people's property and cut down trees
These are.
unless you have a program. Right of way is Title 19,
Yep.
904.
That's that
That's
little.
what you're looking
It's
for.
only a little while.
Yeah, that's right.
I keep the policy pretty simple, because if you say you're gonna cut dead trees as they die, and then you don't get to one and it falls down, now the town's gonna be held liable because you're not following policy.
But
So
more
I keep it
importantly-
pretty basic.
Forget about the dead trees, you got trees that are tearing up town trucks and every truck that comes into town, because the people won't let you cut them, that's your problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very simple. I agree, Alan, that you have the ash borer problem, and maybe we need to have a policy from the tree warden or whatever, but just to get started, I mean, the Title 19 gives us the authority to do so. Why are we even worried about it?
Well, that was the first, the question was, do we have it? That was the last meeting we had. And so now we know we do, so now we can start to build on, okay, we have authority, let's come up with a plan.
So do we need a motion to accept, or are we just gonna do, how do you wanna handle this Title 19? I mean, it gives us the authority, but,
Title 19 is a law, we don't
Right.
have to do anything.
so we
That's
just
already on the
follow it,
books.
we just follow the law and that's it.
That gives us authorization.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Danny?
Yep.
We're not gonna, he's not gonna go out and cut down trees without talking to the people.
No, I understand.
Thank you.
No, it's just to know that I was always in the impression that you didn't have the right to cut in the right of way that you own. But reading that, we do.
You do, right.
So when you go to a landowner and say, you know, the tree, we gotta prune these trees, and they say no, you can hand them a copy of this and ask them what they'd rather do.
I think what we ought to do is, if we don't have a policy or whatever, I think we ought to make a motion to accept that
As your call.
as our policy. And Title 19, I don't have that.
Right, and maybe also stand to your motion, maybe we should just run a little article in the Grafton News so that people know that, that we have
Yeah,
adopted this.
sure.
You actually could run you could run the whole, this whole title right into the Grafton News. And then, and then everybody knows. They might not like it, but they know about it.
Yep, that's the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the next thing is, do we wanna do anything with the ash trees, or we just wait till they die and cut them as they die?
Well, I think that,
Or do we wanna get an inventory, we'd like to know how many trees we have, would we like to, I mean, if you start cutting a bunch of trees, you better have some money in the budget. So
Okay,
that's
but-
where it's all leading to.
but I think the first thing we need to do is get the motion Stan made, get it seconded, which is
Oh, sorry.
adopt this policy.
Sorry.
And then let's decide how you want to handle the ash borer. I think last time we had this discussion, can we get an estimate of what it would cost to do a tree inventory? And I don't know how you do that. I mean, there's a cost. I mean, someone's not gonna do it for free unless.
Well, we do have a tree warden.
Okay, well, I don't know,
So, all right,
He can give
so
us a vote.
this is why we're having this discussion.
Well, let's, yeah.
So-
we gotta do
so
this
the first
let's
thing
do-
is-
Let's
Let's do this.
let's move the motion first.
so Stan made a motion that we accept as our policy Title 19. Right? Is that, am I saying that right?
So we're gonna accept the state law. That's good.
Yeah, for now. So we need a second for that.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion on adopting the Title 19, Chapter 009? No? Okay. So all in favor of accepting that and putting it in the Grafton News, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, the other thing is that, Ash, we talked about it, but somehow we have to get an estimate of who's gonna do this, whether it's a tree warden or whether it's we hire somebody, whatever. I think we need to develop a policy, which goes further, but I don't think we can do that tonight.
We can make a motion though.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Always could ask Tracy if you wanted to.
Well, I guess my thought is, we have a tree warden. We ask him if he'd like to do the survey.
Okay.
If he says, no, I'm too busy, or whatever, then, okay,
Yeah.
next step.
That's great.
We have a policy that we can pay temporary employees at $18 an hour.
Mhm.
The question is how much money we have in the budget to do that, but I mean, the mechanism is there, and it may be, okay, next year, we'll build a budget that includes
I agree.
some time for somebody to go and do a survey, and we'll pay them $18 an hour to do the survey. I mean, that's kind of the discussion or thoughts I was having.
I think that's I think that's great. I think that, you know, do we need a motion to ask the tree, or do you want Bill to call him up, or how do you want to?
Call them.
I mean, let's find out if he's going to do it. That's first step one, I would think. No?
Okay.
And just make note that they will fall under our workers' comp and all of that, our insurance too.
As a temporary.
Yeah.
Unless he's a separate contractor with his own.
The tree warden doesn't want to do
Information.
it. If we had anybody on the select board that could tell an ash tree from a basswood tree, we could maybe get them to do it.
Sounds like you're calling it.
Well, you want, I mean, you want to volunteer, or you want to go to the?
Let's respect the position first.
All right, so let's ask the tree warden if he's interested in doing this, and if he is, then we can deal with that at the next meeting.
Okay.
How's that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Danny, you got any other items?
Yes.
Okay.
So, we have a deadline for the Better Back Roads as of November 22nd. So we always normally fill out ones for the connected segments, because it's mandatory stuff. Do you guys want to fill out any others for like culverts or anything? Them are higher dollar amounts, so like 60,000 you can be awarded. You're still on the hook for 20%, I believe, on these grants.
Well, do we have any culverts that we need to do this with?
That's what I was gonna say, what's next on the list as far as culverts?
So, we go right into a phone call from Friday afternoon from the state V-Trans that as of the year, last year and this year's grants for structures, there's $110,000 left in their budget that they asked if the town of Grafton would like. We asked, Bill, he called this morning to make sure that if we keep getting told that we're in the program for like next year to get the 175. And if we took the 110, it'd boot you out for next year. They only said that we weren't in it for a while still.
We're way down the list,
Way
and
down the list.
I wouldn't affect us much.
So you could take that 110. The next project that we have listed in the capital budget plan that we did is Fisher Hill Culvert number 10 at 198,000. There's not enough money to do the difference from 110. So Bill and I went and looked at another one today on Hinkley Brook, which is on the list, but I think it's down like number 4 or 5 on the list. That was estimated at 130,000, I think, to do. You could go with the Fisher Hill one at 198, apply for a Better Back Roads grant for 60. But once you apply, you're on the hook to do that culvert. And if you do not get the Better Back Road grant, you gotta come up with a difference. So the choice is do you wanna take the sure bet and just do the culvert that the 110 will cover all but, maybe 20,000? And, step out of line on our list, or stay according to our list and take that gamble. I've never gotten that, category.
I don't like
60,000
gambles, I like
before, so
sure things.
I don't think it's a safe bet to do that.
I take the 110.
I take the 110 and run with it. And does it really make a difference if you don't follow the list to the T? I mean, the list was put in there, what, priority?
Megan Brunk didn't have a problem with it. Megan didn't care about it, she didn't mention the list.
She says, just whatever culvert you wanna do, just let her know. It's 122,000, our share is 12,000, so we have to show that 122,000 is the full grant with our share, so, but they're not gonna go over 110,000, so we would eat 20,000 if we did it, if we can still get it done for 130,000. It's the culvert right at, on Hinkley Brook, right at Bolton's camp.
Oh, farther up.
It's right there, right before Bolton, right after my old camp and right where his fallen down camp is, it's right there.
This is this year or next year?
You will have to do it by December of 2021, 2020.
Oh, 20, not
So
in
next
year.
summer, we would have to
Okay.
do this project.
Right.
Because it's a 2-year cycle, but they've already lost this whole summer. Because it was in this year's, that there's leftover money.
So,
That 110 is available?
Yeah, it's ours if we want
I take it.
so is
it.
that,
Yeah, so,
Okay, but it's not,
Yeah, sure, the 198.
not, that easy. I mean,
You gotta fill the paper.
what is the effect on the 175 we're gonna get in sometime in the future when our turn comes up? She doesn't think it's much, but that's all she can say. I mean, it's gonna move us down something. So it isn't just free money out there that doesn't have any effect on anything else. I just wanna make sure you know that one.
But you're not guaranteed 175,000 when that comes up either.
Right.
We're guaranteed it at some time, when our turn
Well,
comes
yeah,
up.
somewhere.
Okay, but the 110, she says we can have 110, which is 122, it's a 90-10 split.
But a lot could happen, even if we didn't take the money, we have no idea when the 175 would be available to us.
That's
We
right.
don't know whether there'd be a storm or something else. I mean, a lot of things could happen during a period of time. And they could turn around and say, well, you were on the list for 3 years, but now it's up to 6 years. I mean, who knows?
Money can dry up.
And money could dry up as well, and, you know, with the elections coming up.
In the past, the town has always taken it.
And how long have we been on the list for the Bell Road one?
Bell Road is not on the list because it's not,
It's historical.
it's historical. So we cannot get grant money to do that
How
over.
about the other one that you're talking about, the 191?
Well, the list was new a year ago, but they've all been in need for many years.
Many years, and we
Yeah.
haven't gotten any result.
Right. We applied 2 years in running for Bell Road, which were denied, and finally they came out and did the hydraulic study and said that they could not find it because of the historical stonework on the one end. But we weren't denied the money because of that. We just weren't eligible yet for it.
It's been so long.
It's been quite a few
It's
years.
been a while.
It's been quite a few years since we got, we've gotten paving grants from them, but we haven't gotten a structure for quite a few years, 5, 6, maybe 7 years.
So if we were to get this money, then that would be a project that we would contract out?
Yes. This would be a box culvert,
What's in there now?
steel,
How big?
60-inch.
How much?
60.
So 60 inch. I thought you said 16 inch.
5 feet.
Yeah, I mean, we gonna have to get all the hydraulic studies redone and everything on that before we could do it, but she was pretty good with it. It's just that, you know, I wanna know what way, so when I start filling out the grants, you know, I don't wanna fill out, cause you can fill out as many as you want, but once you get them awarded, you gotta come up with your match. So, in the capital budget, we just spent 79,000 on Chester Hill and 77,000 on Chester Hill, so the money that we've been saving towards stuff is gone right now. There is some other money in there that will, I think, can do the 10% match on the 110. Which,
I make a motion, we authorize Bill and Danny to do the paperwork for the $110,000 grant, as discussed.
I'll second that.
any other questions yet on that, Bill?
No. You realize that it's not gonna be a 90-10, it's gonna be a 90 plus whatever the
Whatever the difference
difference
is.
of 110,000. And when I have talked to Renault, when we were doing this one year ago, I asked him if he given that estimate is from 3 years ago, no, 4 years ago. After Irene, we put all these in order. The capital budget had just adopted that order just recently, but it was been in the last couple of years, but it's been on our list for about 8 years.
Do you think it'll
And
be
I-
cheaper in 5 years?
It might not be a whole lot different than, because he held the price last time, and, the concrete hasn't gone up that much, it's still fuel and all the other stuff, so, yeah, there's gonna be some increase, but how much more, I don't know.
But I think we inflated the numbers too, when we put them in, figuring that it'd been so many years, I think we went up on all the numbers a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And then we need to do an H&H to just see what, if the same size, it should be like a 14 by 17 or something. I mean, a 6 by 7 by 14 box culvert. It's gonna be a big culvert.
Any other discussion? No, I mean, I think we should do it. We've got the money there. It's gotta be done at some point anyway. And let Danny and go out and try, get a couple of bids and see if we can't get to come as close to,
We're out of the winter till least bidder.
yeah, that's right.
Do we need a vote?
Yeah, so all in favor, say aye.
Who was second? Who's second?
Stan. Any opposed? Okay, so Danny, go ahead and do your thing.
Speaking culverts, the last meeting, we talked about grouting or finishing the
Yeah.
Route
I
35.
talked to,
Where do we go with that?
I talked to,
Nathan?
Nathan, and he said it's on the schedule, he will get it done.
He's
That's
got
all-
halfway,
I
half
asked him-
of it done now.
I asked him when, and he didn't know. Okay, so,
That's the last word I heard, he's got half of it done.
okay, all right, so.
Cool.
Other thing, we got the salt shed full of salt right now. P&L, Eastman Sand and Gravel, stopped me a week or two ago. Wanting to know if he could put up, or he pays us to do it, if he could get signs stating no engine brakes and truck speed 25 miles an hour.
We're on,
On Eastman Road,
Eastman.
he gets a lot of complaints, and he tries to,
Everybody does.
I don't believe that they can technically tell you not to run engine brakes, cause it is a braking device. And I don't know how that would work on the 25 mile an hour.
That's
For
a flat
trucks.
down through there, isn't it?
Yeah, but, I mean, the town, we have a policy that all our dirt are 35. So if you're gonna throw up a 25 for the truck, is it even kosher? The only thing I think we could do, and I had calls and I haven't heard nothing back, is if you put them up in yellow, which is a warning sign or a recommended sign, I think you can put them up. You can't get an enforce a 35 anyways, but he was asking, then he pays us to install and reimburses for the signs, for that. He was looking for like 2 signs of each to be put up.
All north of his, because everything he
On the
does
Chester
goes.
end and the upper end.
Yeah,
But he was only talking like putting 2 signs up.
yeah.
it is a, I mean, it is a dangerous situation sometimes with the, I almost got eliminated there myself.
They
Yeah.
fly.
I mean, they're probably not gonna help, but at least you're making an attempt.
Is it enforceable though, if you?
I don't think it is. I think it's just showing, you know, that he's pretty stiff with the trucks down there.
Yeah.
He tries to do his best with all of them.
If you want to enforce it, you gotta have the sheriff do a study and, or someone do a study and that has to be the end result of the study.
I think these are more signs he's looking for, just, you know, like a courtesy, he's putting them up, just telling them, you know,
Right.
do this.
Want to make a motion?
So moved.
I haven't got the prices back and everything to talk with him, but.
He's gonna pay for it
Sure that
anyway,
I
right?
don't,
Right.
He's paying for it anyway. right?
Yes.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to put them in.
yep, and he pays us to put them in.
Second.
so Chris seconded, Bill?
Chris did?
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. What else you got on your long read list?
Truck number 4, we've been back and forth, a little Freightliner about when it was trade, couldn't get one and everything else. We finally got a dealer to come out and talk to us. And now the truck's not a problem, it's getting the bodies put on what it is. So I'd like to be able to do truck specs on the truck and put it out to bid, because we wouldn't be seeing it for a year. There's no money to be put out until it's done, but body companies are a year out right now
What?
to have it done. There's backlog, because there was a hold on trucks, so no one could get trucks, and then all of a sudden, when the factories released the trucks, all of a sudden, you know, you'd get a couple hundred trucks that came in, they'd deliver them, say, here, and then the bodies company's like, well, they have only so many people. So now they're backlogged on building trucks. So the guy that we have built the last one with, he literally said, if you want me to do it, we're looking at a year out, otherwise go somewhere else, because can't do anything else.
So you're stuck with the truck for another year, is what you're telling me?
And that is the schedule that would go this coming year, but, no matter where you went, you're not gonna get a truck right now. There's nothing even on the ground, everything is spoken for. So I'd just like to take and actually figure out what we're gonna do with it. There's a lot of different options out there on that truck, what to do. And start doing something for specs, so we
So
can get.
Are you just buying the chassis and then shipping
We do it as a
somewhere else?
package. We always have done it as a package, so we deal with one.
So is this gonna be a Freightliner?
I don't know.
Oh,
talking with them all and everything, that Freightliner took the place of the 1 ton. And money-wise now, that little truck is the same money as a regular single axle. Actually, it might be more than a regular single axle. The only thing we kept that little truck for was Kidder Hill, which if we have to, we can plow with the pickup.
Cause I was up in Rutland, they got a 650 Ford with a dump body right on the lot up in the
Yeah, but they're
Ford
not,
place in.
they're not side dumps, they're not. set
No, this is not a
wings,
particular, that's why I
right.
say, if you're, got specifics to it.
Yeah, it's the body package. That's, we had the body company down because of the Kidder Bridge. We wanted to build it so that it goes through there.
Right.
But with all the new emissions, trucks are getting taller and it may not make it, no matter even if we go with a low pro. And it may be cheaper just to go with like a regular single axle like we had in the past and plow Kidder Hill with the pickup.
Well, I think that's something you really should take a look at, because to buy an expensive truck, if it's not gonna go through the bridge, you're better off buying a 10-wheeler or something of that nature.
D3 then.
Okay, well, whatever, but,
We still got a lot of little roads that we
So,
plow.
so in your specs, then you
Right.
would, part of your specs would be a size limit. Overall height and width, and the truck has to be this size or
You
smaller,
really can't pick that.
no?
No. I mean, there's only really a couple trucks you get to pick from, so.
Yeah, but if you got a
and any
big
of them,
body though, if you're gonna make the body,
No, they're standard bodies.
yeah.
You know, it's a side dump body, they give you a couple options, but width is not an option.
Oh, width, no.
You start having to build a body, it get really
I was thinking
expensive.
height, not width.
They do height, but the
Yeah.
width is our biggest problem.
Right. Yeah.
We're gonna actually take one of the 10-wheelers down, the last one, and see if it goes through with a wing on,
With a wing on
with
it?
a wing on,
can the bridge hold the weight?
yeah.
Or you're not
Empty.
loaded?
Empty.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
With the new systems, it depends, cause the problem with the bridges is it's only at 9'8", up 3 feet high. Then it goes to like 11'8" above that.
Right,
So if you can actually get them to carry the wing high enough, you're over the rail, that you might,
yeah,
it may
cause
not
you got
matter.
the blue lamps on both sides of that bridge and they'll take up a lot of.
So all our wings that we have right now are called a patrol wing. You don't have the ability, only on one 10-wheeler, to actually bring the whole wing even all the way. So it just might be in the specs that has to be different. I can't remember the name of it, but it's not a patrol.
So what you're looking for is a motion for you to start the research now,
Well,
to write the specs.
yeah, to get something so they
Do
know
we
we're
need a,
serious.
do we need a
Want
motion
me
for
to
that?
look?
You don't need a
Because
motion.
we're not buying it at
Well,
this point.
I'm gonna do it, write the specs up, and then you put it out to bid.
Well, that's fine, but I don't think we need a motion for you to go out and look for it. I don't think, anyway.
I mean, just remember, what did we spend, $5,000-6,000 on this truck last year? That was under,
Oh, you're gonna spend that again?
and he's probably gonna spend it, so this truck's cost the town a lot of money.
And it's gonna have more work done to it, because we are keeping it this winter. That was the whole thing when we talked to the salesman before, is if you had something built, we might be looking to get rid of it early, and then they never did nothing, so now it's just a matter of doing the specs,
Yep.
awarding the bid, and then they're still, you don't know when it's gonna be here, but they're saying at least a year. The truck could be in 3 months, and it sets up there at the body company for the other 6-7.
No, I think you should start, I mean, that's my personal opinion. And if you don't, I think Stan's right, I don't think you need a motion to go investigate.
Just investigate it.
And it's on the list to
Get your
go anyway,
measurements.
what's the difference? I mean, it's in the capital program, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the last thing is out on 121 Holtonville, the Beavers. If you look at the covert, just as you come into Lisa Kissel's property. That dam is really close to that covert.
On this side of Lisa?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a couple dams, but the one that really bothers me is the one that's closest to the covert. It's actually the restricted end. And you may wanna have something done with that before winter.
What do you put a beaver dam in there?
That one should be removed.
What?
If that blows out, it's not, good chances it's not going through the covert, because it's so close. And then there's 2 or 3 above it, so they're backing up, they don't, if they ever blew out, they'd break up before they got to the covert, but this other one it's not far, 20 feet at the
it seemed to me that when you maintain a water level like that, that you're keeping, the water is also in the soil at that level. When that water starts to creep under your road, you're gonna start to get pounding action and breaking up of tar and stuff. Is that
Yeah.
reasonable?
Yep.
Oh, undermine.
So what are we gonna do with it?
Hmm.
So what do you propose?
That's, I don't know what you guys wanna do, I would just like to see at least maybe something done with that, the closest dam to the covert. They haven't done a real lot there until just recent, they've been really active there.
Yeah.
That's up to
When
you
look at
guys.
it, I mean, before
What
winter.
do you want done with it?
I mean, I don't think you have a choice. I mean, if it's gonna have an issue with the highway, I think you have to do something to prevent that.
We can call, Scott Jensen. Being in the waterway, I would call him before I would do anything anyways.
That's fine.
Why don't you do that?
Yeah, give him a call. Absolutely.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. Bill, I don't know, what's the acceptable management practices? I know I've been out there on this, so.
Alsan.
Okay.
So that was
Oh, okay.
that book that you got, I had one in everybody's
Yep.
mailbox. And, I wanted people to read it, or not read it, but at least review it and see what, have people had a chance to look at it?
I did.
Huh? All right, so if you haven't looked at it, I'll point out the things that I think are important. The acceptable management practices this is a new book, but the policy and the practice is not new, it's been in effect since 1986.
All loggers go by this?
So, the loggers don't have to go by this until they have a discharge. So if they have a discharge and they put dirty water into a stream, when the inspector comes, the state inspector comes and looks at it, they're going to force them to do all of these things, okay? Some loggers play that way, you know, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, as long as I don't get in trouble. Others are more proactive, and the Logger Education for Advancement of Professionalism, the LEAP program in Vermont, all of those loggers, they're playing by these rules, because they know that's what is expected of them. The foresters know this is the standard for the industry. So, so the other, you know, all the drawings, the ideas of what to do to maintain water quality, to have a logging job, to not have discharge, to have all of the things to do it right. All the techniques are in the book. The other important parts that are in the book are the laws, what puts the teeth in all of this, and who is responsible. There's 5 districts in the state, 5 forestry districts. Each district has a forester that's in charge of it, acceptable management practices. So when I made a comment the other night at the hearing on the town plan, and I didn't get the response I thought I would get. And so I said, you know, I don't think everybody knows about this. I know about it, but I don't think everybody else knows about this. Should be in our town plan. Our town plan should refer to logging in Grafton people will follow the acceptable management practices. That way, everybody in town is doing the same thing. And so I wanted the select board to see it. If you have questions, if you want a presentation from a forester in Vermont about acceptable management practices, that can be arranged. But Like I said, it's been in place since 1986. It's not it's
So
not
I have a
law.
question, so I guess we're gonna be talking about the Ledge Road and I guess the Improvement Association is gonna do logging. So I don't know who the logger is or whatever, are they following that procedure?
If you read the notes, the minutes from last meeting, we agreed that when Danny issued the contract to them, in the contract, it would say they have to follow acceptable management practices, so yes.
And it does, and he agreed to it.
Yep,
Is that Peter?
Peter Durkin.
You said, a person, whether it's me or whether it's somebody else in town, hires a logger, and the logger doesn't follow those practices, is there any repercussion to the landowner?
It-
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so, I can't quote the law on the water quality part, but I know the forest fire laws that I used to work with. And in those laws, the law reads, who burns or causes to burn. And I'm sure there's a similar parallel law for his, who cuts or causes to cut. So what it's saying is, the person is actually cutting the tree, or the landowner, or the forester. So, yeah, just because you got a logger on your property, you're not off the hook.
So it would behoove anybody who's gonna be logging to make sure that the logger does follow these procedures.
In today's world, you would be foolish to have a logger on your land and not have a written contract. And in that written contract, the logger has to follow acceptable management practices. I would never do that on a piece of land without that. So, I just wanted to make people aware of this document. And it's a state law that we should be following it.
Absolutely, no, I read it,
Should-
it's a very good law, I mean, it's good.
Should the town itself adopt it as a policy that any town logging or anything that's logged on town property will follow this and suggest?
I think our town, well, we can do that too, but I think in our town plan should say, all logging in Grafton will adhere to the acceptable management practices. All we're really saying, is we'll follow the state law in Grafton.
Right, yeah.
But anyways, I just wanted people to see it, if anybody wants to look at it.
And we're okay with the contract for the Improvement Association, that's all set, right?
You wanna, that's next, you wanna cover that?
Okay, okay, let's do that.
So, Danny, myself, Peter Durgan, and Jim Roberts. Jim Roberts, I called him because there was some discussion or possibility of using what's called the shortcut up there. The shortcut is owned, it's on land of the Pinnacle Association, Windmill Hill Pinnacle. So anyways, he came so that he would see the discussion. They're kind of the neighbors there, so it's, might as well have it all open out front. So we walked from the parking lot at the end of Ledge Road, no, we drove up past that parking lot to a spot where we thought was a reasonable place to stop with a pickup truck. We had 2 pickups. And then we walked the rest of the route past the quarry and made a loop and came back down the shortcut road. And once we walked the shortcut road, it's shorter, but it certainly isn't the place to take log trucks. So we looked at all the culverts that were there. We looked at a bridge that was there that he's gonna put a panel on it, a metal panel to make it wider. They're, as soon as have you talked to them lately? Or do you know if they're working up there?
Last I heard, he's hoping to move up there this week, to start on the road.
Yeah.
And you took pictures and all that stuff too?
There's really nothing to take
there
pictures
isn't
of,
really-
a washed out road.
There isn't really much to take, I mean, it all looks alike.
Okay.
So,
It's not passable to what they're gonna do the way it is, no matter what they do is gonna be an improvement. And the access permit states in it that when they're done, during and when they're done, all culverts will be in good working, good condition, bridges and, water barriers and all that be put back to do that. We talked about a couple culverts that he's gonna try the lower or do something with, and if there's a problem, we'll work with him on what we have for culverts and stuff, but, there's only like 3 culverts up there on that section that have any size of them, so,
So they're gonna have to bring in material and,
no, they're hoping not to.
well, I'm sure they're hoping not to.
Their goal is to, rob from little spots
Yeah.
along, working in the right of way,
Yeah.
but taking material from here, putting it over there, moving it with a bucket load, front end loader and that sort of stuff.
Uh,
So it will, its intention is to be a winter road, which means you don't build it to the same standards as if it was a summer road. But it's gonna improve what's there, and, it will be helpful to GIA for future timber sales, and it could be beneficial to Danny if they needed another way to get onto Kidder Hill.
They're not going all the way through. We thought they were going all the way through, but they're not, they're stopping.
But they're getting
They're pretty close.
So, but still, if you got that far, I bet you could make the rest of it with a tractor, if you had to. So,
Now, they're gonna be responsible for any damage on the class 3 portion of Ledge Road?
No, that would just fall under the
That's no
regular,
different than anything
any
else.
other road.
Right.
Right.
So, and that road is supposed to be built to withhold whatever they're gonna run anyways, so.
Is there gonna be more sanding and stuff on that? This is gonna be a winter project, right?
Yeah, I don't know, we've had other logging projects up there and we really didn't have a whole lot
No.
more. They're gonna chain up,
Yeah.
chances are if they have any doubt, they're just gonna run the chains all the way to the blacktop.
Steep, right? There's a section.
But we, in the past, if someone's logging somewhere, they might give us a call, but it's not like, oh, just keep it brown the whole
Yeah.
time. So,
Okay.
So there's nothing we have to do with this? We're
No,
all
I mean,
built?
we just followed through with what we
Right, okay.
talked about at the last meeting, and we just wanted to let you know that we actually did it, and the agreement's been signed, and
But once they do that work, then you give them the permit for that, right? You have to.
they had the permit,
Yeah.
they need the
To
permit to
proceed.
start,
so now we won't be involved really until the end,
right.
To the end of the logging
Yeah,
job or
yeah.
fixing the road?
to when they're done and they're saying they're done.
Like a closeout,
sure.
we'll do a
Yeah.
closeout,
Right.
right.
Bill, you had something?
Yeah, the access permit was taken out on 11/1, and it says all culverts, bridges, and water bars must be in good working condition during and after project is complete, must follow AMP standards. The town is giving permission to cut trees in the town right of way to improve roadway as needed. And it is to use Ledge Road, a class 4 section for logging purposes. Oh, improving Ledge Road, a class 4 section for logging purposes. That's what his access permit is for, and it's used to, it's also, use of Ledge Road, class 4 section to Kidder Hill. That's what is in the access permit. He has $25 permit fee and $500, in, his, what do you call it?
Retainer.
Bond, security. So he gets the 500 back if all that stuff is done.
Most of the work to be done is on the Grafton approved property in that portion of the road.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay. We talked about this at the last meeting, and I don't think a lot of the select board has given Bill dates, but we need to start the budget meeting soon. So, Bill, you have the list there, or how do you want to handle
I
this?
sent it to everybody, I have it printed out, it's, the week of November 11th, Tuesday or Thursday, this is Joe's, Tuesday or Thursday. I can't make it Tuesday, but Thursday's fine. The week of November 18th, Joe is gone, so he wouldn't be available that week. The weeks of November 26th, 2nd, December 2nd, December 9th, and 16th, Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday are all fine with him.
So,
And I'm the same except for the Tuesday of November 11th.
How about we start with the 14th? That was the first available date.
whatever, I mean, we just gotta get going with the budget, that's all.
And Joe prefers morning to 10 to noon or after 3.
I mean, I can go anytime, but if you have a meeting at middle of the day, it just kills your date, so. But, and maybe some people can't go during the day, I don't know what their schedules are, I don't have that problem, but.
Thursday, 14th at 10 o'clock. How's that for sound?
Works for me.
I can do that.
So November 14th.
Where?
Town hall, up above.
10 o'clock? Yep. And Bill, you'll send that out?
Yeah, I think if it going by last year, I think we had 2 working sessions, and then we had a third one
Maybe 3.
for the, you know, like a kind of an overrule and whatever. And then I think and Kim, you could check me if I'm wrong, I think we had 1 meeting in January just to make sure that everything was okay. Is that my recollection? Do you remember?
Yeah, because January is pretty much when I wanna be complete with the town
Right.
report, so I can get it to the.
So what basically we need is 2 more dates between now and the end of the month, year. And then sometime when all the reports are due, I don't know what the date is this year for I don't remember, you sent it out, but. So the next dates will bring you either to Thanksgiving week, or it would be the first or second week of December. I think, if I remember correctly.
I'm not available the first week of December. If that makes a difference.
Yeah, I've got something tied up too.
So what about the 9th, the week of the 9th?
Or which one?
December.
December, I can't do that.
What about the 25th, the week of Thanksgiving? Does anybody have any, I mean, I don't, you know, I know it's holidays, but I don't know if people go on vacation or whatever, and,
I gotta do that.
I mean, you could do it on that Tuesday or Monday of that month, of that day, I don't know.
Yep.
Yes, no? Yes?
Yep.
So you wanna do it the
Monday, the
25th?
25th,
All right, that's great.
Monday,
So it would be
10 o'clock again.
11:25, 10 a.m. And then we just need 1 more day in case. We might not need it, but just in case. You wanna do it the week of the 9th? December 9th? Alan's not available the
I
first.
won't be here on the 9th.
What about the 10th, 11th, or 12th? The whole week you're gone?
No. I'd have to look, but I'm not the 9th. I probably.
Well, I'm just saying not the 9th. It could be the 12th.
Yeah, I'd have to look, but I think that sounds good.
Well, you wanna tentatively pick the 12th, and then if you can't make it, don't
Sure.
bill, and we'll have something else? All right, so the last meeting would be 11, 12, 12.
Yep.
10 a.m.
Okay. Yep, 10 a.m.
Yep.
So I would urge everybody to get their worksheets that Kim provided and do your sample budget, and we'll have a first meeting. And Bill, you should notify the fire department, the fire squad, and planning commission and everybody else that they need to be ready by the 14th, because it would be great to have everybody come early on, I think.
Okay.
And if they can't make it, you know, they can submit it in and then come in following week, but.
Yeah, I've talked to the fire department about doing that, so they're aware.
And I think, Bertie's projecting a possible the 14th for the budget.
For the
For
capital?
budget,
Capital
we'll
budget.
be
Okay.
together, that was tentative, he talked about today on the 14th, so then we'll be,
So I'll put a question mark there.
Yeah.
For capital
Probably
budget.
November, that's when our meeting is.
November? Is that November 14th, Kim?
Yeah, that's.
yeah, that's
Okay.
tentative,
10 o'clock.
he's gonna talk with some of the other members to see if that works. And probably the second one, I'll give revenue sheets to. Also, because we also, not only do we do the expenditure, but we wanna project for the revenue. The revenue is pretty much, I kind of will fill in the blanks and then talk with you about it, that's how much we're gonna get for current use or something like that, so it's not really, we have a whole lot to say on it. It's just a
Okay.
projection.
Well, it worked for well last year. We got through it. There was some, some areas where there was some disagreement or whatever, but it worked out pretty good. I mean, there's no reason why we could do it and get it over with.
So you're gonna have, other organizations like the library and the
Yeah.
fire department come on the 14th,
We try to, and,
The first one, right?
yeah, better off, don't you think, to get everybody's budget out there first?
The first
Yeah.
one, yeah, so then I can move forward with filling in the blanks on the
Right,
rest.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, if they're just sending it in for us, but if somebody's coming to speak to a budget, then we're gonna kind of coordinate it. We don't want Danny to have to sit there and listen to 2 or 3 presentations. We do?
No, I'm just thinking.
Danny was there last year. It worked. I mean,
Well, no, I want Danny to come to do the highway part, but as far as him sitting there listening to the library, or the fire department give their presentation, do we wanna
We might not
coordinate
even-
it? So
but I
the
think-
person we wanna hear is there, but not everybody?
I think the highway we did the second day, I think, last year, didn't we?
I
Yeah.
don't think even for the fire department, it's a very long, 10, 15 minutes are done.
Okay.
That's how it's always been in the past. If they even show up, usually they just submit something.
Yeah, or tell us there's no changes or something
Right.
like that.
Okay.
I think you've got the 3 dates.
All right, so we're all set, 11:14, 11:25, and 12:12, and at 10 a.m. at the town hall upstairs, correct? We all get everybody good with that? All right, perfect. Okay, the next one is the roads of Otis Road and Hall Ranch Road restored to map. Bill, you're gonna have to speak to this because.
I gave you these color sheets on that.
Yep.
I apologize to everybody, when I turned the computer on at 2 o'clock this afternoon and looked again at 5 and it's still updated. So I don't know what's with that computer, same one I had problems last time, but anyway, so I didn't bring it.
That excuse is getting old.
I know, it's getting really old. Anyway, and I left it on all week, so I don't know why I decided I wanted to do it today. Anyway, the very first, on this page, the really close-up picture is just to get that book reference, that's all. The one on the bottom of the page are the roads that should be on the map. These are not new roads, they're not ancient roads. They are on the ground and they were on the map, and who knows when they went out. I mean, I haven't had time to go back and look, but I bet if I went back to the 30s, they were not there. If I went back to the 20s, they're not there. You can go to V-Trans and just look at all the municipal maps. I haven't seen these roads on the map forever. Why they're in green on that map is because they should be on the map. That's all I can say. But my question to you is do you want them back on the map? And I'm gonna say one more other thing. I'm not gonna get into an LTA thing again. Debo and Rooney have to be absolutely damn sure that the descriptions that I gave them are actually from those roads. They both have told me they are, and they'll double check. Because what they are, they're from Joe Smith's house to Sam Jones' house to the corner where the wagon broke down, stuff like that. So, but they know all those things because they've read all those roads. So if they can guarantee me those are right, then I would ask, we can have a hearing on it so that the owners know we're putting them back. They don't have any say because they're actually there. And, but you guys might want to make a determination that you don't want to put in a road or a section of the road in because it isn't necessary and you don't want to interfere with that use of that property. But other than that, they should go back on it and what I have to give all this information to V-Trans in January when we do the map. So that's what I'm getting ready for, is to do that. There are probably other roads in town. These are ones that have come up because somebody is putting gates on these roads. And we don't want gates on the roads if they are our roads. So that's why I'm doing it. And I want permission to you to go ahead with this until I don't know what Debo would charge, but tell Debo and Rooney to go ahead with it. So far, Debo has hardly charged me anything at all. Most of the time, he hadn't charged me anything. But he pretty much does this because he had done it before, and he hasn't charged, or he might charge $100 for $1,000 worth of work, whatever. He hasn't charged. That's where I am. The other maps here are just further illustrations of the top. This one in black and white at the top of the second page, that's what's actually on our map. And it does not include all these other things. It probably doesn't even go to Sue's house, so, or maybe just goes to Sue's house, but not past it. And if you look at that number 6 at the bottom of that page, that's without all the ancient road maps on there, those red lines, that's approximately what it should look like, except though there should be a road going straight north from that intersection along that property line up to Hall Ranch.
So these roads, because they weren't done, because this was all time sensitive originally, wasn't it?
No,
It wasn't?
no, okay, everybody thinks that if you didn't do ancient roads, you
They're
didn't,
gone.
and these are ancient roads you've done. Definition, an ancient road. There is a pristine forest, there's no rocks in the road, there's no path going through, there's no nothing. And the select board shows up at the bottom of the hill with their chainsaw, because they hate the guy that lives up there. But there is a road that is laid out, and it's laid out right through that pristine forest, and you get to the bottom of the hill with their chainsaw, and they start cutting all the forest down to make this road up to this guy's house. And he goes to court, and went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. We're gonna have a moratorium on ancient roads. If you want that road, you have to go through the hearing process. None of these are ancient roads because they're on the ground. You can see them, you can walk them, you can drive them. So they are not ancient roads. They did not go away.
And I think part of the reason why they're coming up too is because a lot of these roads are used by snowmobilers and hunters and just recreational for horseback riding. And people have started to put gates up on these roads, and that's the issue. That if it is a town road, you can put a gate, but you can't lock it.
As a matter of fact, the first road, if you look again at this bottom of the first page, that road comes off Hall Ranch and makes a big sweep to the east. Okay, that is a pinch road. A pinch road is a road that the farmer could put a gate on both ends to keep his cows in or whatever, to keep his sheep in, but he can't lock it. That's a pinch road. The others are not pinch.
And I don't know how many people have actually been on these roads. I have, and these are, I mean, they're literally roads. I mean, this is not, there's not trees growing in the middle of them. I mean, they're used for hiking and snowmobiling and whatever, so.
So if we don't resolve this, we're gonna have a snowmobile club in here, unless they've made arrangements for them to open the gate during.
Well, some of the, I don't know the details. You have to talk to Amber, or you have to talk to Jamie, whatever, but I know they made an attempt, and some of these people said no way, so I think that's how the whole thing came about.
That's how it came about over Vast and the gates up there on that property off Otis, yes. And there might be a reason for the gates, because you have some not so respectful people bought some property up there, and they're running around in the woods raising hell. And so these gates may have shown up to keep them off their property, and that they may not have intended to keep everybody out of the property, but no one has been able to find out for sure.
So I think we need to do the process anyway, and then make a decision once we find out. So, Bill, are you looking for a motion here, or are you just looking?
No, I just want to know if you want me to do it, and I'll do it. I'll tell, well, maybe, yeah, to have Debo and Rooney approve these roads up and get back to me, and then with whatever they have, and then I will, we will just have a hearing. It won't be a hearing like we had before. It'll be a hearing to put the roads back on the map, but it won't be, you're not declaring this a road, it is a road.
So when you have that hearing, assuming it gets to that point, and you have a hearing, there will be notices to the landowners
I'm not gonna tell anybody, we'll have it in secret.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell everybody will know, everybody.
Yeah, it's gotta be, you gotta handle it just like before with public
It'll be
notices.
handled,
Right.
handled just like we were putting in a brand new road.
Right, and then if somebody cuts an objection, then they come in and they can voice their objection, whether it's valid or not, then we have a decision to make.
So does it be categories as trails?
Oh, that's up to you at the hearing. I would
Because if you
suggest,
categorize them as class 4
You
roads, you're
guys-
responsible for culvert.
you guys will have to, part of that hearing would have to be a provisional classification based on the fact that it is probably a class 3 road.
Class 3, 4.
Class 3.
No.
No, right now, it is probably a class 3 road. It was probably part of the town system.
Oh.
Okay?
At
So
the time.
that's what you have to presume, because they don't, back in 1788, they didn't have classification. So what is it? You guys, okay, as part of your hearing, you're gonna classify it. That's what we didn't
Trail
do,
or-
that's what we
or
didn't do
class
on the legal trails when we brought them back on the map, and that was a mistake. Okay, we need to classify. And Eric pointed that out to me, that we should have classified when we bring them on. So when you bring them on, classify them. You want them trails, you want them paved, you want, whatever you want.
So we're just authorizing him to do the research in preparation.
Right.
I'll make that motion.
Can I also be authorized to set it for a hearing?
Yep. You add that to your motion? Second, do we have a second to Alan's motion?
Second.
It would, might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but if we decide to go forward with this thing, if you make them a trail, the club, the snowmobile club maintains these trails and whatever. They put the culverts in and they do the whatever. So if you didn't wanna go with the class 4, then it takes the responsibility of the town off the thing.
Yes, and I just like I said, we have, you guys changed the road standards. We do have to keep class 4 passable, right, Danny?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to keep them passable. It might be that you want them all kept passable.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's a possibility, but the nice thing, from a money-wise, if you make them a trail, they're 50 feet wide, whether they're 50 feet or not, they're 50 feet wide, and you don't have to maintain them at all.
Right,
Okay, that's, so if they all get washed out, you don't have to do anything.
right, and if the club uses them as part of the fast trail system, then the club will maintain them for down trees, culverts, or water bars, or whatever is necessary.
Right.
Yes, Eric?
Just as an aside, our formally in effect town plan has a statement in there to the effect that the town will attempt to maintain all of its rights of way, not discontinue them.
Okay. Well, when you say town will maintain, does that mean class 4?
Means
Keep
keep,
them on the
Oh,
books.
keep them on the
Keep-
books.
Yeah.
And there's probably others that should be on there. So, I mean, just guessing, because Bass hadn't said anything to me, but there are probably others.
Any other discussion? So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Who seconded that, sir?
I did.
Chris did. Okay, Kathy, I guess it's the letter here, you wanna? the letter to take
Yeah, our
copy?
subcommittee for the town health officer met several times and come up with quite a few recommendations to the select board. And one of the recommendations has been this letter. And I wish at this time not to discuss the letter in detail, but to do that in an executive session, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Can we, I think, in all fairness, we need to do that, but part of that is you want to name him,
Oh, right.
yeah, so I think that should be talked about before we go into executive session.
He was given a designation, health officer for life for the state of Vermont, because he has given us over 20 years of service to the state and to the town, which has, we want to recognize that as a town, his service, and to honor him. Town health officer can't pronounce this.
Emeritus.
Emeritus, thank you, Chris. And hopefully, assume day-to-day operations for the town, helping, Richard Thompson as town health officer.
Thank you.
Okay? Any comments, whatever? Okay, public comment, do you have any public comment today? Chris? Eric?
Back on previous talk about subject, the acceptable management practices, I think it is appropriate for our town plan to mention this kind of guidance. However, the actual enforceable language should be an ordinance by the town that people doing logging that impacts any kind of public waterways, infrastructure, whatever, must be following the acceptable management practice. That follows from the aspirational text of the town plan to the actual enforcement from the select board.
That actually is part of why I wanted to bring this up, is the way it's in the town plan that was discussed at our last hearing. If you read everything, we, as the select board, are supposed to take that town plan and take the wishes of the planning commission and then write policies and enforce those policies. It's like, really? It just seems much cleaner to say all logging in Grafton will follow an acceptable management practice. Done. That gives you your penalties, it gives you your law enforcement, everything is taken there. We don't have to, and then we're not the ones that have to, or future boards are not the ones that go and enforce it. It's done for us on the current system that's already on the books.
Any other public comment? Okay, other business? No, okay. The date of the next meeting is, November, what is it, I forget, 18th, I think it is?
Yep.
Yeah,
18.
November 18th, here at 6 o'clock. And now we need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Executive session is to discuss a personnel matter. Thank you for coming all.